welcome back. So last week, if you weren't here before, we had orientation to the Christian Life Program, or CLP. And so this week is our first week where we're gonna give you kind of a teaching about who God is. So be excited, keep your minds and hearts and ears open, and yeah. Oh, and so talking about that, right? We're gonna be teaching you more about God, who God is, right? So I'm not gonna be the one teaching you. So it'll be one of the ladies of our community, and she's a very happy-go-lucky person, and she was just playing up here. She's our music ministry head, meaning she's in charge of all of the music that is played during worship, or when we praise and worship. And she's also a teacher. She's a catechist, meaning she knows a lot about our faith as Catholics. So if you have any questions for her, you can ask her. Feel free to ask her. And so without further ado, giving talk 1, God's Love, is May Ruiz.
Hi guys. How are you guys? How's your Friday? Thank God it's Friday, yeah? Okay. I hope you can see the slideshow. I made it really pretty for you guys. I'm a very visual person, so I like things that are pretty. I like to make things that are pretty, so I hope you enjoy it. And like what Denise said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to take a note or write them down. Don't feel like, if I can't answer the question at the end of the talk, don't feel like we are only going to answer questions within these walls, where we can totally talk to you afterwards, or maybe even outside the Christian Life Program. Even you can maybe talk to us on a Saturday or whatever. Just write the questions down. It's good to ask questions because that's how we know, how we learn more about our faith. So now, they already introduced the topic for today. It's God's love. God's love, yeah. We're here today because some of us know, some of us feel like we know what God's love is like. And I'm pretty sure you all know what God's love is, and we feel it. Sometimes when we feel like we're so blessed with something, we say, "Oh, God truly loves me," right? Or sometimes we deduce it. Like, for example, even if we don't feel it, we say, "Oh, I have a roof over my head. I have a job. I have a car to take me to work. Even though I have made bad decisions before, I'm still provided with things that I needed. I therefore conclude that God must love me because I'm still provided with these things that I needed to function in my everyday life." But when you try walking out of the store, or maybe just like go to your smartphone and look at the news, and sometimes we see disorder, and then oh, is that working? Disorder.
Excuse me, my apologies.
So, no. Play. So, we see, when we read the news, we see things like this. Like, there are people that are hungry, there are people who are killed, planes are shot down, there's war, there's things that are just like very unsightly, or things that you may think that it's very horrible, to just like face these facts in life. And that's a crash, and that's like the Ukrainian people. And then there's also murder. If you guys don't know, this is murder. Abortion is murder. It's not a medical procedure. Again, if you guys have any questions, if you guys have any violent reactions, let me know. But take a note. Take a note of that, because right now we wanna finish the talk first. Okay. So, and then there are also things like we go through things like, how come come, how come we have like this personal battles? Like, how come I can't, if God loves me, how come I can't find my soulmate? If God loves me, how come I can't find a job? How can't even provide for myself? If God loves me, how come I feel so depressed, I feel so incomplete, and it feels like there's no God. It feels like I don't feel God's love. And sometimes admit it, or maybe, I don't know if you already experienced it. When people see this disorders in life, like the war, whatever, the hunger, some people, for me, my personal experience, because people know I'm like uber Catholic, and they ask me, I was like, where's your God now? If they say something like, or if they see something in the news like, where's our God now in this situation? Why is your God not helping? Why is your God, where's your God in this situation? Thank you. And then because of this knowledge, that we know that there's we have to improve life. We have to improve the world. We have to produce more food. We come up with things like we build tractors. We build things that may help the production. But then in reality, there's still people that are hungry, even though we do something about it. Even though we try to resolve it by making food production cheaper. And then sometimes there's also food waste. Thinking that there's a lot of food in the world, how come we still see this man here, like just walking like San Francisco downtown, you see a hungry man. Hunger is not even just like something that you see in pictures in Africa or some third world country somewhere. It's you can see it here in America. So, and then and then we know that there's a disorder. We need to fix it. We try to fix it. We try to fix it as human beings, but we fail. Like what we showed earlier, we try to fix the food supply, but then there's still people hungry. And the reason being is because we're doing this in our own human wisdom. You guys agree? You guys are making me nervous. You guys are just staring at me. I feel like,
Yes.
oh my God!
Yes.
They're looking at me. So now, again, question: Why does God allow these things to happen? Did He abandon us?
Next slide.
Yeah. Okay. So why does God allow this to happen? Why do we feel like we're living in this world that is very not there's no love in it. It feels that's how it feels like, right? And then take note that I'm using the word allow in this context and this sentence. Okay. And okay, Flashback Friday. So, back in the way back, we're gonna go way back, not just 2 Fridays ago or 10 Fridays ago. How far back? In the beginning. Let's go in the beginning. Creation. So in the beginning, I'm not gonna make you read these guys. So I'm just showing that this is the story of the story of creation. So click to the next slide, please. Okay. So in this story, so you would, if you can see the things that I highlighted, not highlighted, but I turned into bolded. Is that even a word? God says that the things that He created, the moon, the stars, everything that flies, everything that crawls, everything that surrounds us, the body of water, the land, everything was good. So, go down. It was supposed to happen earlier. So, go down again. Next slide, please. Okay, everything was good. And then if we look at, oh, sorry, you can't see here. But this is when we were created, when the man was created. So, when we were created, it was just not good here. It was very good. Can you see? Sorry. Can you see? Yeah, there you go. And it was very good. So everything, imagine. So if God way back then created and everything is good, and then we were created, it was very good. It was so good that we were created in the image of likeness of God. Meaning, what does that mean? We look like Him? Not literally, but the reason why we are made in the image and likeness of God is because when we were created, we had free will. And when we were created, of all the visible creatures that was created, it was just the man and, well, I'm going to use the man in this term, not man and woman. Sorry, I'm not going to, man and woman. So the man was the only one created who was able to know and love God. So everything else that was listed here, they didn't know who God is. And the reason being that we were made in the image and likeness of God is because God had that plan to have a relationship with us. So we were created out of love to be loved and to be loved in return. Or did I just quote Moulin Rouge thing? So, sorry. So, my point being is God created us out of love to love, and to love Him back, and to have that personal relationship with Him. And we are so loved that everything else was laid out for us. Imagine everything was created, He did not create us before the fish and the birds and everything else, because God was laying out an environment for us, a place for us, a home, and food resources for us. And we can rule over those all creations because, again, we are created in His image and likeness. So, if everything is supposed to be good, I'm so confused, May, because you're saying that there's a disorder, and then God loves us, but then I can't tie it out because, it's just a very small text that you're giving us. So, what went wrong? So, what went wrong in this situation? So, if everything was created good, and the plan was supposed to be everything's supposed to be awesome. Everything's awesome. So, what happened? Go now. Do you guys know the story? Of course, I'm assuming that we all know the story of the fall of man, or when Adam and Eve first sinned. So, the disorder happened. All of these happened in the beginning when Adam and Eve sinned, which we know now as original sin. So what they wanted to do was they wanted to be like God. So they wanted to be like God without God, before God, and not in accordance with God. And then that sin was the first disobedience. And then imagine when they sinned and they said, when they asked what happened, Adam blamed Eve, and Eve blamed the serpent. So, but from then, in the history of the Bible, there's a lot of things that we can see that we have sinned, we have wronged God. There's Cain and Abel. Okay. Go down. And then Noah's Ark. Did you guys watch a movie?
No.
It's kind of weird. I think the story is kind of weird. Okay, so even then, so remember earlier I said, why did God allow these things to happen if this is supposed to be, if these things are supposed, everything is supposed to be good and for good and out of love? Why is God allowing this to happen? So remember in the beginning, like in Genesis, I said that we were created when we had free will. So even though that from then on, when God started to, I'm sorry, God is not sinning. when humans became prone to sin, because we became very spiritually weak, because we had that first sin, original sin. We have throughout the history of the Bible, like what we saw earlier, we sinned many times after that. But then, because God is such loving God and just God, even though that He punished man, there was still something that He gave man so he can, he can survive. Like for example, in Adam and Eve, He promised that He promised that there's someone that He's going to send who's going to crush the head of the serpent. In Cain and Abel, Cain had a mark where he said, nobody can kill Cain because whoever kills him is going to get it sevenfold. So basically, no one can touch him. So just in case somebody wants to kill Cain because he killed Abel. So imagine that after sinning, after disobeying, after just like, imagine if your friend said, "Oh, I'm gonna take your purse because it's so pretty," and then you being a friend, such a good friend, you just let him take it and you forgive her, Marie Angelica. Okay, you forgive her. So imagine the relief of Maria, that even though that she did something wrong, you still forgave her. Imagine that relief. Imagine that knowing that God's love is not very vengeful. God's love is very unconditional. God's love is very like a fatherly love. Like for example, like when we were kids and we did something wrong and then we get punished. Like I don't know if we're Filipinos here, who got the Mongo treatment or the salt, where you have to kneel on the salt. Have you guys experienced that? So imagine being punished, but then after the punishment, your dad or your mom say, "Here you go, here's your food. I know you're hungry. Don't do that again." So imagine God as a loving father. So again, even though we sin, remember that God is still always there, and you're not alone. And then, in fact, God actually has a plan for us. It's not just like even though something happened in the very beginning where plan A didn't go well, where everything should be good and awesome, and because we kind of disrupted because we sinned. God still has that plan to restore that friendship, to restore that relationship. And if we can read this, somebody read. Yay! Go ahead.
Jeremiah 29, verse 11, "For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for calamity, to give you a future and a hope."
Future and a hope. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so we can see here that we are not abandoned. There's a plan. Even though we see that there's so many chaos that's happening in this world, that there's still a greater plan, right? But how do we do that? Go. And then, can somebody read this one? Go ahead.
Ephesians